I was asked how I come up with this freehand weaving pattern, and so here we go. I'll show you. First of all, what I do is on a piece of paper like this, I draw the bases, the lines which will form this. Now this particular one I'm going to do fairly wavy, so, and because it's freehand, I do not make any pretense of trying to get them even or anything like that. They just freehand, I just keep them smooth. Okay, there they are. Right, that's in one direction. Now I do them in another direction too. I predetermined the area that I want covered, so that's why these lines are drawn here and at the back there. That's why those are drawn. The cross lines I'm going to do also freehand, and not necessarily even either. Just there they are. So that's what I end up with. As you can see, the lines in one direction wavy, the other one's kind of straight. Okay, then all the ones I've done so far, I have done I've done them three over three, under three, over three, under three. So that's what you end up with in these designs there. Over three, under three, over three, under three. Each one of those. So now I'm going to change that up a bit, because I want to do one that goes over two, under two, over two, under two, over two, under two. Okay, so to be able to do that, I just kind of pick a spot. I don't start on the edge because I do get confused too easily. So let me see if this works. And I draw the one that goes over two. So that's what it does there. Then they're offset by one, so the next one is going to be there, and the next one is going to be there, and so like steps almost, they will go there. Now when I do the under three, over three, under three, over three, obviously at that point these are just three long blocks, not two long blocks. So first I end up with that. Then I put in the cross ones. So they come at a 90-degree angle to these, and there they are, standing like that. And now I can more easily follow what's happening on the edge. Okay, So now it's simply a case of doing that. More and more and more, and filling up the whole thing like this. It looks very laborious, but it has paid off for me. What I have now seen is that I have a pattern of my lines are all 3 block long lines. So if I start the line there, it's going to go for 3 blocks. The next one over, but they all go for 3 blocks. That makes it slightly easier to draw as well. So here, the same thing I have. That is 3 blocks, 3 blocks that I draw the line long, and that gives me the... This is the hardest part of it all, is to kind of keep track of what's going where, because that in itself is not super easy. But I find that before I start any tracing, let me get this out of the way and get my pattern set up carefully and clearly. So that's how I achieve this. Now I'm going to start doing the rest, and then I'll come back and show you how I trace it. I've created all the squares on the piece of paper by inking them over the pencil grid. So now I know exactly how the swivel knife cuts will be. Now I just trace them down line by line onto a tracing film. So this is a fairly blameless job. Just following all the ink lines on the piece of paper. And at this stage what I do as well is just make sure I've got a nice flow of movement through this. So that's basically it. They go in both directions again. So I do all these lines one by one over. And as with all leatherwork, I remember when I started, I always said, wow, for each design you go over all the lines so many times. Once tracing it, now that's what I'm doing now, first time, but I've already done those lines twice. Once in drawing the pencil grid, then drawing in the pen lines. Now I'm tracing it, then it's swivel knife cuts. No, tracing it down on leather first, then swivel knife cuts, then tooling itself, beveling. So there's a whole lot of times that you see those lines. Okay, I'm going to finish this, not bore you with it. I'll be back. Okay, the tracing is done. I've positioned the tracing film here on the piece of leather. And so now it's a case of just following the lines. It's that simple. Sometimes doing this part I use an empty ballpoint pen with no ink in. That's nice, but this little stylus has got a very nice smooth tiny ball on the end, so it really makes nice lines on the leather. So yeah, so just a bit more about this design. There is many variations. I mean, you can do these lines in the grid that you work on in so many different configurations. You can have it all in circular fashion. You can have it wavy as this one. You can have it straight lines. Then, of course, the other thing that you can do, and I've got a friend in Switzerland, Sergei Falken, who mastered that one, and he draws these lines absolutely accurately according to very, very certain measurements, which results in the most gorgeous patterns that you can think of, merely by varying the distance that the lines are apart. So if your lines are closer and gets wider apart, you get a certain effect. And by playing around with that, there is no end to what you can do as well. So that is a nice way to play with it too. Is the actual grid that you work on. And of course I showed you that my pattern that I draw on the grid is, in this case, under 2 over 2 under 2 over 2. I usually do under 3 over 3 under 3 over 3. That is a whole different variation to the thing as well. So lots of fun to be had in this area. Okay, so I've drawn them all in one direction. I'm going to turn the leather slightly to make it easier for me to draw in the other direction. And yeah, I'll be back. All the pattern has been traced down. Now all that needs to be done is the swivel knife cuts. Just a note, a small side note, I'm using a very wide blade, meaning that I am going for cutting wide lines, because a lot of the lines on this pattern does not get beveled. So I want them to be fairly prominent, so I'm going to use the wide ceramic blade. So here we go, doing the same lines, cutting them into the design. And you'll see there's not much to this, just rote following the lines that were traced onto the leather. So don't think there's too much to that. I will finish this, and when I start with the tooling, the actual stamping, then I'll show you a bit more. There's more to the pattern, and that happens then. At this point, just a whole lot of lines being cut. As I say, it's quite a few times you go over the same lines, having to do the same thing, but that's just the nature of the beast. It all pays off in the end, and you can, depending on how perfectionist and anal you are, you can really do some detailed work here, or you can run freehand with it, like I'm doing, and just have fun. So it's purely up to you where your personal choice is, and that's what makes this so nice to do that it fits in with everybody's personality. And I have sympathy for the guys among you who are perfectionists. But you're on your own. That's who you are. You got to deal with it. Luckily, I don't. I can just live life free. Yeah, just joking. If you're a perfectionist, I actually do admire you for your perfection and the fact that you can and do perfection. That's really great. So, but I always like to joke with the perfectionists. Okay, we'll be back when the tooling starts. All the lines are cut with the swivel knife, and I'm ready to start doing the tooling. I'm using B803, 802 in this case, with the width. It's just a textured beveler. And so what I'm going to do with it is, now every single ribbon on this design, as I said, that let's put it this way, that ribbon goes over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2. Where it dips under the two others, that is where I bevel it. So, let me see. Let me show you with this thing. Okay, so yeah, you'll be able to see that. There's the ribbon, there's another one next to it, and there's the other one next to it. Now here, where it dips underneath these two, or let's put it this way, you can still see, yeah, that one. That ribbon there dips under this one. So that's where I'm going to bevel it deeper. Okay, so here we go. And that's all I bevel. That's the only beveling done on this at all. I've used line bevelers as well here. That's kind of your choice, which beveler you want to work with. For this one, I'm going to try this heavily textured beveler and see how it works. Because my leather is fairly thin, it's about a 5 ounce, I have got another layer of leather underneath that I'm working on. So that just fools the leather into thinking that I'm working on a fairly thick leather. And for one thing, your tooling doesn't go through, and the other thing is that you get a bit more depth out of thin leather. I should just at some point buy a cheap piece of leather so I can have a bigger piece at the bottom. Now I've just got a piece of scrap there, and I must make sure each time that I am on top of it. So fairly simple, this process too, nothing complicated, and it's only the end tips of these ribbons that get beveled. Now, that means I've got to do this in 4 directions. Because they do run in 4 directions. That should be up close enough. Let's see. Where are they? Here they are. And so, like I said before, you can see this is a fairly mechanical process. There is nothing really to it. The only thing that I do make a point of is really focusing that I know where to have to bevel in this case, which direction they lie. When you do a 3 under 3 over pattern, the ribbons are a bit longer, and so with longer ribbons it's a bit more easy to follow the whole design. But this is not too bad either. If I drew my lines closer together originally, the ribbons do get very narrow sometimes, and then I would employ a narrower beveler for that job. But in this case I am seems like this 802 or 3? 803 is fitting the bill. It's doing the job. Okay. Now, camera is a bit in the way, but I will do another row. It'll be the 4th side. Okay, I only want to do a bit of a piece here, just so that I can show you the full tooling here in one session, one little session here. So, out comes the bottom layer of leather, and I am going to use now a modeling spoon. Let's see, I've got a few here. Yeah, I think, and you can always test. Remember, testing applies here too. You can always test. Always test. Always test. Make sure whatever effect you want is being achieved. Okay, so I'm going to go with this modeling spoon. And what I do now, just make sure you can see. You can see. Okay, so now I'm going to do those that I've tooled, and all handwork. I just make lines across in the direction of the ribbon. In that way I give texture to that ribbon. The directionality of it helps a lot too with the overall pattern. And I am once again gonna, when I'm done with this, I am gonna color it with the diluted EcoFlow highlight stain. I really like the rich colors that come out of that. So these lines also help me achieve the nice effect when the highlight stain hit these lines. Now I've not done the border yet, so the border will get done as well at the appropriate time. For now, I just want to do this. So, if you've done classes with Jim Linnell, you'll know he does a lot with his modeling spoon tips as well. And here you see another use of a modeling spoon tip. To do these texture lines. This one has a very thin line. It's a very sharp kind of a tip. It doesn't cut through, but it makes a very thin line. Some of the others that I have make a wider line, a thicker line that it draws, which gives you a totally different effect again. And sometimes I pick one of them. And there, see, I found a little mistakey. I have a left out line there. So now it's not being left out again anymore. And this background pattern also lends itself very well to get rid of blemishes on the leather. Okay, so that's what I've achieved. That's what it does. Now it's a question of that drying out, and once it's dry, I will do the highlight, EcoFlow highlight stain, diluted with about a third to half of water, and then that will pop out really great. So there is a separate video of that. There's a separate video of this, so you can have a look at that. Hope this helps.